Have you ever wondered what men really want in a relationship? Not what they say, but what they secretly hope you'll do without them asking? Because here's the truth. Most men will never say these things out loud, not because they don't care, but because they can't find the words. Their pride, their fear of rejection, and even their own confusion about emotions often keep them silent. But make no mistake, every man has unspoken needs. Needs that, when fulfilled, make him see you differently. Not just as a partner, but as the woman he can't live without. And today, you're going to discover 3 things men want you to do in a relationship, but will never tell you. And if you really understand what I'm about to share, you'll start to see something incredible happen. The man who once pulled away will start reaching out again. The one who seemed emotionally distant will begin to open up. And the one who took you for granted will finally start to see your value, without you having to beg, chase, or prove yourself. But before we go deeper, let's be honest about something. Most women have been taught to believe that men are simple, that as long as you love them, they'll love you back. But love alone doesn't keep a man connected. Men think differently, feel differently, and attach in ways that are often confusing to women, because they've been conditioned to hide their emotional world. From a young age, boys are told not to cry, not to show weakness, not to need affection. So when they grow up and fall in love, they still carry that mask. They still fear looking too vulnerable. And that's exactly why these 3 things, the ones they'll never tell you, matter so much. They speak directly to what's behind that mask. The first thing you need to understand is this. Men rarely ask for what they truly need because needing something makes them feel powerless. Instead, they drop small hints through their behavior. He might get distant, irritated, or suddenly quiet. Not because he stopped caring, but because something deeper inside him feels unseen. That's why many women misread these moments and think he's losing interest. But what's really happening is emotional disconnection, and it can only be repaired when you know how to respond in the right way. When a woman understands the unspoken emotional language of men, everything changes. She stops overthinking every text. She stops chasing clarity. She stops trying to fix him, and instead she begins to act in ways that draw him closer without forcing anything. This isn't manipulation. It's emotional intelligence. It's the ability to connect with a man where words fail. Because in relationships, what men don't say often speaks louder than what they do. So let's break through that silence. Let's understand what really moves a man to love deeply, stay loyal, and feel safe enough to show his heart. Because once you know the 3 things he secretly wants, and you start doing them naturally, you'll no longer have to wonder what he's thinking or why he's pulling away. You'll feel the difference in the way he looks at you, the way he touches you, the way he starts to open up again. And that's when you'll realize, love doesn't fade when you understand how to feed it the right way. Let me tell you a story. It's about a woman named Sarah. She was smart, loving, and loyal, the kind of woman who gave everything when she fell in love. Her boyfriend Daniel was kind too. At first, he was the kind of man who would call her every night, send good morning messages, and talk about the future. But as time went on, something changed. Daniel didn't stop loving her, but he stopped showing it. He became quieter, distracted, distant, and Sarah started to feel invisible, like she was giving all her love and getting very little back. She tried harder. She asked what was wrong, tried to fix things, planned surprises, and gave even more affection. But the more she gave, the colder he became, until one day she looked in the mirror and realized she didn't even recognize herself anymore. She used to be confident. Now she felt anxious. She used to laugh easily. Now every conversation felt like walking on eggshells. She didn't understand what went wrong. After all, she did everything right. She loved him, supported him, and stood by him. So why did he seem so emotionally disconnected? The truth is, Sarah was doing what most women are taught to do. She was showing love the way she wanted to receive it, through words, care, and attention, not realizing that Daniel's emotional needs were completely different. He didn't want to be fixed. He didn't want more questions or reassurance. He wanted something deeper, something no one had ever given him before, emotional safety. But Daniel didn't know how to say that. So instead of expressing it, he pulled away. He buried himself in work, spent more time on his phone, and stopped communicating. Not because he didn't care, but because when a man doesn't feel emotionally safe, he shuts down. And here's where most women make the same mistake Sarah did. They see that withdrawal as rejection. They try to close the gap by giving even more calls, more texts, more affection, hoping it will bring him back. But what actually happens is the opposite. He feels smothered, he feels pressured, and without realizing it, she pushes him even further away. When Sarah finally decided to stop chasing answers and started focusing on understanding him instead, everything shifted. She learned that men don't always need words. Sometimes they just need space to feel safe again. She learned that silence isn't always distance. It can be a sign of overwhelm. And she discovered that what Daniel truly needed wasn't a woman who would solve his problems, but a woman who could stay calm while he found his own way back. That realization changed everything. One night, after weeks of quiet tension, Daniel finally opened up. He told her he'd been feeling lost, that work had been stressing him out, and he didn't know how to handle the pressure. He said he was afraid of disappointing her, and for the first time, Sarah didn't interrupt or try to fix it. She just listened. And that's when Daniel said something that stuck with her forever. "When you stop trying to change me and just let me breathe, I feel closer to you than ever." That night, Sarah understood one of the deepest truths about men and relationships. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what actually matters. Men don't always need words, attention, or reassurance. They crave connection that feels calm, respectful, and safe, even when they can't put it into words. That's the emotional key that opens a man's heart, and most women never learn how to use it, because no one ever told them that love isn't just about passion or excitement. It's about understanding the quiet moments, the ones where he doesn't say a word, but his silence is asking for something. And when you respond with the right energy instead of panic or frustration, you don't just reach his mind, you reach his soul. Now let's talk about the 3 things men secretly want in a relationship, but will never tell you. These are not surface-level things like compliments, attention, or affection. They go much deeper into the emotional psychology of how men love, connect, and attach. And once you understand them, you'll start to see exactly why your presence, your tone, and your energy affect him more than your words ever could. First thing, he wants to feel respected, not just loved. Most women give love naturally. It's how they're wired, through affection, care, and emotional connection. But what truly makes a man bond with you isn't just your love, it's your respect. Respect to a man is what love is to a woman. It's oxygen. Without it, he starts to suffocate emotionally. When a man feels respected, something powerful happens inside him. He feels safe to lead, to open up, to protect, and to commit. He feels like he can be himself without being judged or controlled. And this doesn't mean agreeing with everything he says or staying quiet when you disagree. It means communicating in a way that honors his dignity. Simple things like how you speak to him during conflict, how you react when he makes a mistake, or how you handle disappointment, those moments shape how deeply he feels connected to you. A man can be madly in love with a woman, but if he constantly feels disrespected, through criticism, comparison, or control, he will emotionally withdraw. He may not even know why, but something in him will just shut down. When you respect a man, even when he's wrong, you're telling him, "I still see your value." And that's what makes him fight for you, protect you, and stay loyal to you. Second thing, he wants to feel needed, but not in a desperate way. This one is tricky because modern women are taught to be independent, strong, and self-sufficient. And that's a beautiful thing. But here's the paradox. While men are deeply attracted to strong women, they still crave a sense of usefulness. They want to feel needed. Not because they think you can't live without them, but because it gives their love purpose. A man's identity is tied to his ability to provide value, emotionally, mentally, or even practically. When he feels that his presence makes your life better, it validates him in a way that words can't. And when that need disappears, when he starts to feel replaceable, he quietly pulls away. You can be independent and still make him feel needed. It can be as simple as asking for his opinion, thanking him for his effort, or acknowledging something he did. When you say things like, "I really appreciate how you handled that," or "I feel safe when you're around," it hits him deeper than "I love you." Because in his mind, it means you trust him. And trust is the highest form of love a man can feel. That's why many men stay in relationships where they feel needed, even when love has faded. And that's also why they leave relationships where they feel unimportant, even if love still exists. It's not the emotion that keeps them, it's the purpose. Third thing, he wants emotional peace. If you really want to understand a man's heart, remember this. Men fall in love with peace. They crave a woman whose presence feels like calm, not chaos. And that peace doesn't mean silence or pretending everything is fine. It means emotional stability. Most men live in a constant state of pressure. Pressure to perform, to provide, to stay strong, to never show weakness. So when they come home or spend time with someone they love, what they want most is relief. They want to feel that they can exhale around you, that they don't have to walk on eggshells, explain every word, or defend every decision. When a woman becomes that safe place, she becomes irreplaceable, because in a world that constantly demands from him, she becomes the one person who gives without demanding back. That's why when a man says, "I just need some space," he's not always trying to escape the relationship. Sometimes he's trying to protect it. He's trying to find his balance again, so he can come back whole. But many women misunderstand that as rejection. They panic, overthink, or assume he's losing interest, and that reaction only pushes him further. If instead you remain calm, confident, and centered, you send a powerful message. You can take your space. I trust our connection enough to let you breathe. That's emotional maturity, and that's what men fall for. Not drama, not competition, not perfection. Peace. Think about it. When a man looks back at the women from his past, the one he never forgets isn't necessarily the most beautiful or exciting one. It's the one who made him feel calm, the one who understood him without needing to fix him, the one who could hold space for his silence without demanding explanations. That's the kind of woman who lives rent-free in his mind forever. So if you want to touch a man's heart, remember these 3 truths. Respect him, so he feels valued. Need him, so he feels purposeful. Bring him peace, so he feels safe. When you do that, you're not chasing him, convincing him, or trying to be enough. You're simply becoming the kind of woman his soul recognizes as home. And when a man finds that kind of energy in a woman, he doesn't run, he stays. Now that you know what men secretly want, it's time to understand what happens when those needs are ignored. Because most relationships don't end because of a lack of love. They end because of emotional disconnection. When a man doesn't feel respected, needed, or at peace with you, he starts to retreat into himself. He doesn't explode, he withdraws. And that quiet distance is far more dangerous than any argument. At first, you might not notice it. He still smiles, still answers your messages, still says, "I love you." But his energy starts to change. The conversations get shorter. The intimacy feels forced. You start to feel like you're the only one fighting to keep things alive. And here's the part that hurts the most. He might not even understand why he's pulling away. He just knows something feels off. Men often can't name their emotions, so instead of talking about it, they shut down. They distract themselves with work, hobbies, or friends. They become less emotionally available. Not because they stopped caring, but because they no longer feel emotionally safe in the relationship. If you've ever felt like you were losing a man for no clear reason, this is usually why. It's not that he found someone else. It's not that you weren't enough. It's that somewhere along the way, he stopped feeling respected, needed, or peaceful, and he didn't know how to say it. And when that happens, most women do what Sarah did in the story. They start to chase reassurance. They text more. They ask more questions. They try harder to get his attention. But every time you chase, he feels more cornered. Because in his mind, your anxiety feels like pressure. And pressure is the one thing men can't handle emotionally. It's not your fault. You were just reacting from a place of fear. Fear of losing him. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being too much. But in love, fear always pushes away what you're trying to hold on to. The more you try to pull him back with words, the faster he runs emotionally. That's why it's so important to act before the distance grows too wide. Once a man emotionally detaches, it takes time for him to come back. Not because he doesn't care, but because he's protecting himself. He needs to feel that it's safe to return. And safety doesn't come from arguments, explanations, or long talks. It comes from your energy, from the calm, confident presence that tells him, "I'm not your enemy. I'm your peace." When a man starts to pull away, that's your moment of power. Not power over him, but power over your reaction. Because how you respond in that moment decides everything. If you panic, beg, or accuse, you confirm his fear that being close equals chaos. But if you stay grounded, detached, and emotionally steady, you remind him that you're not like the rest. You become the exception, the one woman who doesn't lose her balance when things get hard. And that's the kind of woman men come back to, again and again. The one who doesn't fight for attention but commands it through her calmness. The one who doesn't try to convince him of her worth, because she already knows it. That kind of energy is magnetic. It's what makes him realize what he's losing before it's too late. Here's the truth that no one tells you. When a man loses respect for you, he loses attraction. When he stops feeling needed, he loses purpose. And when he stops feeling peace, he loses emotional safety. When all three fade, he starts to wonder if being single would feel easier than being misunderstood. And that's how most breakups happen, not in one explosive moment, but through a slow erosion of emotional safety. He doesn't stop loving you overnight. He just stops feeling connected. And by the time you notice, he's already halfway out the door emotionally. But it doesn't have to reach that point. You can rebuild connection without begging, chasing, or pretending. You can reawaken respect, need, and peace, not by changing who you are, but by becoming more emotionally aware. By understanding that his silence isn't rejection, it's communication in disguise. That his distance isn't cruelty, it's confusion. And that his coldness isn't the end. It's a test of how deeply you understand what's going on beneath the surface. Every relationship reaches that moment where love alone isn't enough. And in that moment, emotional intelligence becomes everything. Because the woman who knows how to respond with calm instead of chaos, empathy instead of ego, understanding instead of accusation, that's the woman who stands out in a man's life forever. So now you understand what men secretly want, and why they'll never say it out loud. They don't need someone who's perfect, or someone who agrees with everything they say. What they truly want is someone who makes them feel safe enough to be human. Because behind every strong man, there's usually a story he never told, and a woman who either made him feel seen or made him feel small. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to change who you are to be that kind of woman. You just have to understand how men love differently. Once you do, you'll stop confusing silence for rejection and distance for disinterest. You'll start to see that when a man withdraws, it's not always because he's done with you. Sometimes it's because he doesn't know how to process what he feels. And your calm presence is what helps him find his way back. Think about the kind of love you really want. Not the one filled with games, doubts, or control, but the one that feels mature, peaceful, and real. The kind where both of you can be yourselves without fear of losing each other. That kind of relationship doesn't come from manipulation or rules. It comes from awareness, from understanding the emotional blueprint that men live by, but rarely explain. When you start to apply what you've learned, when you show respect even during conflict, when you let him feel needed without losing your independence, when you become his peace instead of his pressure, everything changes. He starts to look at you differently. He starts to talk to you differently. He starts to feel you differently. Because to a man, peace is attraction, respect is desire, and emotional safety is the foundation of loyalty. This is where most women get it wrong. They try to earn love through effort. They give more, talk more, prove more. But the woman who understands her value doesn't chase because she knows that love isn't about doing more. It's about being more present. It's about learning to express care without losing control, to hold space without begging for reassurance, and to love without forgetting your own peace. Men don't fall in love when you try to impress them. They fall in love when they feel emotionally safe around you. They stay loyal when they feel respected by you. And they never forget the woman who gave them calm when the world gave them chaos. So if you're in a relationship right now, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, does he feel respected when we argue? Does he feel needed in my world even in small ways? Does he feel peace when he's around me? Or pressure? Because those three questions will tell you more about the health of your relationship than any text, call, or confession of love ever could. And if you're single, don't see this as a warning. See it as preparation. Because the moment you start embodying these three truths, you naturally attract men who are ready for real love. You stop attracting those who drain you and start drawing in those who value your energy. You stop repeating the same painful patterns because you finally understand what truly builds connection. The strongest relationships are not built on constant excitement. They're built on emotional safety, the kind of love that grows slowly, deeply, and quietly, the kind that doesn't have to prove itself every day because it simply feels right. So remember this: respect him so he can open up. Let him feel needed so he can stay present. Be his peace so he can be your strength. And when you do, you'll notice something magical. You won't have to chase love anymore. It will chase you. Because the kind of woman who understands a man's heart doesn't need to beg for love. She becomes the reason he believes in it again.